Well, who knew that 2025 was going to be the year I realized I put the stickers backwards on one of my favorite childhood LEGO sets? This is Plo Koon's Jedi Starfighter. And so is this. Well, technically it's a Jedi Starfighter. It's just very small and not quite what we all wanted. Today, I'd like to talk about one more Star Wars related project to round out this month, or last month, or next month, or whatever. Doesn't matter. And that has to do with the release of this little guy. And I know I'm not exactly timely on this, but this has been one of the larger projects that I've worked on so far, at least. So thank you for bearing with me. I appreciate it. On June 1st, 2025, LEGO released this here Microfighter with the criminally underrated Jedi Master, one of my favorites of all time, the legendary, the one and only Plo Koon. Fans were hyped, and I was no exception, mainly because of this minifigure, which is just absolutely stunning. I mean, look at this guy. Dual molded head, a beautiful new printed legs. Gosh, that is a face only a Keldor could love. But while the minifigure was absolutely the silver lining, a lot of folks, myself included, were hoping for something a little bit more. There was a real excitement bubbling when rumors started circulating about a new Plo Koon starship set, a set that we haven't gotten since 2008. Especially with the ARC 170 also dropping this year, people were so ready to pair the two on a shelf for a sweet Order 66 scene, and then we got this Microfighter. Cute, sure, but not the play-scale starship we'd all kind of been dreaming of. But luckily, this is LEGO. A medium that is inherently customizable, modifiable, so obviously I decided to make my own.
Fine. I'll do it myself.
Only one problem. I've never made a mock like this one before, so there were some roadblocks. So to get things started, let's boogity on over to BrickLink Studio and see what we can do. Step one, we're going to take the skeleton from the Obi-Wan Starfighter set that came out in 2022. This set has become, in my eyes, the gold standard for what a Delta-class starship in LEGO could look like. Yes, we could pull from the Jedi Bob Starfighter that came out last year, but I don't know, the Obi-Wan one has great shaping, solid construction. I like it a little bit more, so we're going to start with that. If you've never used BrickLink Studio before, as I hadn't, you might assume that you can just import a pre-existing LEGO model and start tinkering with it from there, as I did. Unfortunately, this feature doesn't exist, so we are presented with two options. Option 1, bust out our 75333 instruction manual and get to click building. Or option 2, try to find a file that somebody else has already put together on the internet. Fortunately, Rebrickable has this tab for alternate builds. And the top result is a masterpiece by one Rom McFaddy that has a studio file attached. Thank you for your contribution, Mr. McFaddy. Please, may I call you Ronald? The only problem with this build is that it's actually a modification to make things a little bit slimmer. It's described as being modified to reduce the height of the cockpit area and lower the whole ship when landed. So when we open the file in Studio, it looks like this. But honestly, that's not really a problem for me. If it's modified to look a little bit better, then oh well, it looks a little bit better. This is still a perfectly usable skeleton. We'll slap a 2008 colored coat of paint on it and see how close we can get. Okay, so this is looking, well, retro. It looks pretty much just like the 2008 Plo Koon Starfighter, but, you know, that thing wasn't exactly screen accurate either. The color isn't supposed to be regular blue, it's supposed to be dark blue, which is something that the Microfighter actually captures pretty dang well. And now that I'm looking at the actual ship from Revenge of the Sith, I'm seeing that these white angles are all wrong. The blue and white lines don't point straight out, they kind of flare like a sunburst. So let's make those changes. And here's something else that I messed up. The version that I started building was based on the ship Plo Koon flies during Revenge of the Sith, which is a Delta 7 Aether Sprite class. But the 2008 LEGO set was actually based on an earlier model only seen in the Clone Wars, the Delta 7B, also known as the Blade of Doran. Thank you, Wikipedia. You can tell the difference by the shape of the wings and the placement of the astromech droid. On the 7B, the droid sits inside the center section, not perched on the wing, as it does in the Delta 7 Aether Sprite. So, yeah, back to the drawing board. Okay, now this is better. New shaping, new angles, a little tiling, and most importantly, the astromech droid is in the right spot this time, just like the 2008, but better. I think this version gets a lot closer to what we see on screen. You know, it's not perfect, but I don't know, I quite like it. And most importantly, it feels like Plo Koon's ship. Buying pieces for any MOC can get really expensive really fast. So, although I'm a little bit resistant to it, I figured I'd see how many pieces I could pull out of my current parts inventory before I had to order on BrickLink. Of course, at the end of the day, I did end up having to order some stuff off of BrickLink, about half of the parts in this MOC, and it ended up coming out to about $40. While the pieces are on their way to my doorstep, let's talk about the star of the show, the Plo Koon minifigure himself. And here he is, standing next to the original 2008 one. As you can tell, my original 2008 one. It was an icon of its time, an incredible figure for the year that it came out in. Rubberized heads were all the rage for the increased level of detail that they provided at the time. But as you can see, over time, my paint has worn off the tips of the goggles and the tips of the mandibles on my original figure. While the new figure, on the other hand, has a dual-molded hard plastic head and mask combo. This is iconic, but this is just better. Besides obvious little things like the head, like the printing on the legs, I just think that this one looks a lot more like Plo Koon himself. I love this figure. I think this one just looks more like Plo Koon himself. I've always kind of felt that the old 2008 figure was a little bit narrow in the head. I guess he looked a little bit more like Plo Koon in the Clone Wars, but he certainly was not an accurate representation of the Revenge of the Sith Plo Koon. For all of the disappointment that came with the 2025 Microfighter set, the minifigure is not amongst those. Same cannot be said for the astromech droid, however, as the 2008 set came with a whole droid, as opposed to the new 2025 Microfighter just came with the head of poor R7D4, I believe? I suppose if you wanted to make the ultimate droid figure, you could probably mix and match, and there he is. Perfection, I guess. Although I will note that this is a different shade of brown on the body than this printed version on the new 2025 head. It, of course, matches the original figure, which is a little bit yellowed from its days sitting on a shelf, but I can't help wonder if the original droid was made with original LEGO brown, as opposed to the new one, which I believe is printed to match the new LEGO reddish-brown color that was created because the brown was too brittle. I'll have to check my dates on that to see when the old brown was put out of commission and reddish-brown was implemented. This just feels wrong, though, so for the moment, I'm going to set them back. Much better. Okay, so the parts arrived, and I actually built this MOC over on a live stream with some of my regular viewers, which was a great chance to get suggestions and learn a little bit more about the MOC building process. Pro tip, instructions are hard. If you'd like to be a part of builds like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you never miss a live in the future. And there we kind of have it. Okay, why do I have so many extra pieces? I mean, I knew I was going to have some, but there we are, right? Like that's... Am I holding it the right angle? That's that, right? So yeah, the Microfighter was cute, and the minifigure was awesome, but this is my own creation. And it's not just nostalgia, it's not just accuracy, it's a little bit of both. Because sometimes, if LEGO doesn't make the set you want, you build it yourself. Of course, there's always room to grow. In the next version, I'd like to maybe change the shaping of these lines and make them a little bit less uniform and a little bit more sunbursty. Drop a comment down below with your suggestions or any tweaks that you think could elevate this build to the next level. Or let me know in the comments what other MOCs you'd like to see me try. I'm new at this. It's exciting. I have a lot of pre-built sets, but this is the first thing that I've really just like built mostly from scratch, and I feel really proud of it. And I really want to, I don't know, get in there more, you know? Is that weird? Who cares? It's fun. So until then, check out the instructions on rebrickable.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and until the next time, thank you for watching.